I didn't know that this had the potential to be bike shedded. Like I didn't have
Got
like
it.
I didn't like I thought like, oh, if I do this work, I'll be
Right.
excited and they'll merge it.
Yeah.
And that happened, but that's very much the exception. Now, I will say Core, I think, is becoming more and more comfortable with some of these bulk vector updates
Yep.
because they've seen the success of the procedural hook conversion. But in general, I would caution you to be more familiar with hook emitters. Make sure you're recognized, like make sure they know what you're working on. I would caution you not to spend 80 hours in 1 month working on an issue without understanding if it's going to get committed or not.
So yeah, this is a little weird, Nick. But the show has started.
Yeah,
So how do you
there
like the
you go.
cafe? This is your first time here.
I like it. I'll be honest, I have to catch up.
Yeah.
I've only listened to the first few episodes. Honestly, I'm very interested in them. The thing is, though, the last few weeks I've had many, many more meetings than usual,
Yeah.
and I've been watching a playthrough of a new game by somebody
Really.
that has been taking up all my time. Yeah, it's a game called
That is
Blueprints.
fascinating to me watching someone else play a game. I get it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understand
Well,
it.
there's different types. So this particular one is, uh, I thought it was weird too at first. The way I get around that though is it's a game that I'm interested in. I'm not going to have time to play it,
Right.
but while I'm working on something that's not particularly intensive, I can have it up if I have like a 5 minute break between
Yeah.
meetings or something. So you get to experience the game, but you don't have to dedicate as much time. But the game is it's unique. It's a gem. It's a roguelike puzzle game.
Uh-huh.
So if you don't know what
I don't.
roguelike is like so roguelike is a game that's meant to start over and try again over and over again. So like um a lot of exploration games are like this.
Right.
Like you go into a dungeon, it's procedurally generated,
Got it.
and then you die, you start over, and the next time the layout is
Right.
different, the items are different, the enemies are different. That's what a roguelike is.
Okay.
This game is that, but it's a puzzle game. And they've found a way to like tie different runs or days
Yeah.
into a roguelike. It's
What is this
fascinating.
game played on?
I think it's
PC.
on Steam.
Oh,
It's
it's on
probably
Steam.
on
Yeah, yeah.
it's probably on other systems too, but
Right.
the person I'm watching is playing on the computer.
All right.
But
Hey,
so that's been taking my
the
time.
reason I wanted to have you come into the cafe, obviously just to talk to you, because as much time
Yeah.
as we spend together, we never talk, right?
Yeah, we
It's
don't
always
chat that much.
it's always business stuff. But this is I really enjoyed episode 510. And I know that was like exciting for you, 510.
Yeah.
Something you had been, as we learned in that episode, you've spent, about a year working on it, sounded like,
Yeah, a little bit over.
getting the Drupal hooks in. And a couple of things that weren't touched upon in that episode are things that I was interested to hearing from you. And so I figured I would just ask you, and why not record it? So that's why we're
Sure.
in the cafe today. Um, and it's around like I remember shortly after you and I met, I remember sitting, I expect you remember this too, sitting at Eric's dining room table working on a project together, right?
Yep.
This goes back a
Yeah.
while ago. And that day, I was explaining to you what hooks were in Drupal. I don't know if you remember that, because we were trying to
I do.
modify a form on the website, and I was explaining to you what a hook form alter was. And then, like, here we are, 14 years later or something, maybe
Yeah.
13 years later, and you recently implemented these hooks in object-oriented way in Drupal 11. And just the thought of that transition over those years from, going from, the hooks to what you're doing today, like that journey fascinates me, and especially the one over the past year of you like now contributing to core. And I was interested in, I thought maybe that episode they might dig in, you guys might dig into that, but I guess it wasn't the place and time, and there was so much to cover that day.
Yeah.
So I had a few questions for you on that. But before we do that, do you know what wasn't covered in that episode either? Which I guess
What?
it just, maybe I missed it. Um, Maybe I missed it, but you talked about how this is affecting module contributors, but never really touched on how it affects like a site builder, someone who is using hook form alter in a
Yeah.
few places and using some hooks. It was never explicitly said, "Hey, this is how this is going to impact you."
Yeah.
If it doesn't,
So,
well, and I learned in that episode, it doesn't have to at all, right?
yeah, it doesn't. So let's
Yeah,
start at the top. The,
yeah,
the new hook system that we're talking about is basically one of the last procedural pieces of Drupal, aside from theming stuff,
yeah.
is were hooks, right? Hooks always had to be procedural. They took the module name and then whatever the hook was and some rules, and they had to go in the .module file with some exceptions, or .install or something like that. And there were dozens of issues trying to convert that to an object-oriented approach.
Hmm.
And the one that finally got over the finish line got in, we closed over a century's worth of issues,
Yeah.
which was pretty cool. Um, how it affects a site builder, it doesn't. I mean, it just doesn't. It
It doesn't, because you guys have built in the ability to just run the old style procedural
well,
code, right?
I was going to split out the site builder from kind of the tinkerer. It doesn't affect the
Okay.
site builder at all because the site builder is not writing code, right?
Okay. All right.
And they're not going to notice the underlying details. Now the tinkerer, I think it does
Okay. So that's what you're calling, what I call a site builder is,
what I used to be when you were teaching me what a formal
no,
was.
but I kind of almost feel like you almost can't build any site with some level of something
Now,
being
yeah,
changed.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So I'm not talking about someone who's writing a lot of custom code, but someone who's just tweaking a few things.
yeah.
And there's almost any site that isn't really, really small that isn't tweaking a few things.
Okay, I'm going to go on a tangent again, but I think you want those. So,
Yeah. That's okay.
so part of the thing that really pulled me into the hook conversion was wanting to be able to remove the need for .module files because they're
Right.
weird. There's
Yeah.
again, there's an issue that's 15 years old, I think, trying to add .php. That it's a security issue. There's all sorts of problems, and it's just a weird thing that you have to learn about Drupal. We're pretty much there. There are four or five functions still that aren't hooks that if you use them, they need to be in a .module file,
Mm-hmm.
and that issue is close to being resolved, right?
Right.
And we can remove the .module file entirely. Now, no matter what happens, that won't be done for until Drupal 13 or maybe even 14. Like that is a massively disruptive change because almost every module almost on Drupal.org and custom modules have a .module file.
Yeah.
So if we were to say, oh, you don't need those anymore, you have to get rid of them by Drupal 12, no team is going to have the resources to be able to do that in every project. So rest assured, no matter what, this will be a Drupal 13 or even maybe a 14 thing if it were to change. I spent all this effort and done all this, and Eclipse, who we had mentioned on the show, who had kind of come up with the idea behind the winning idea that got Drupal hooks over the line, said something to me that I've been thinking about a lot more recently, which is, yes, we can get rid of .module files. Should we?
Uh-huh.
Same thing with procedural hooks.
Right.
We don't need procedural hooks anymore. Should we get rid of the ability to have procedural hooks? Now, there's a performance.
That's one piece that wasn't clear to me, by the way.
What's
6
that?
months ago when this was coming, like I knew this was coming, I was like preparing the team that I work with is when we go to 11, we just going to have to buckle down and we're going to have to get rid of the procedural hooks. I didn't
Yeah.
realize initially that they were still going to be supported.
Yeah. So they're fully supported. They
Right.
should, and they should be.
Hmm.
And the goal is to get rid of them. But now I'm beginning to question, should we get rid of them? Because while it is a there's a performance issue to having them. There's a way to like mark your module as not having them, so it kind of gets rid of that performance on an individual module basis. And Core, by the way, now has that flag set for every single module. Um,
Okay.
but procedural hooks for a tinkerer are once you know what they are and how to look and how to get the
Yeah.
documentation, they're so easy. You create a .module
Exactly.
file, you add an open PHP tag at the top,
Yeah.
and you add a function with a special name. Done. You're
Done.
interacting with it. We kept a lot of that for OOP, but now you have to put it in source hooks. You
Yeah.
have to have a namespace.
Yeah.
You have to have an attribute, which you may not know what it is.
Yeah.
You have to know how to structure that attribute. Like it's easy for a developer.
Right.
It's a little bit more complex because you have to have a class. It's more complex. And so I'm beginning to question, I've done all this work to get rid of the need for this. And now I'm beginning to question, should we even do that? Because we've already closed so many doors for like, if I were getting into Drupal today, I don't know if I would, because one of the reasons why I was able to get into Drupal with Drupal 6, 5, 6, 7 is I could build full featured site. I mean, the time you were talking about where you were teaching me what hooks were,
Yeah.
I was a full scale developer, and even I would even call myself a semi architect
Yeah.
because I didn't have to write code. I could just use
Yeah.
feeds and tamper and all that stuff to
Right. Right.
build a full featured site.
Right.
Now, my work got better and expanded once I learned what hooks were and learned how to write PHP code for myself. But if you had to start Drupal today, you can't build a Drupal site today like that. You have to know object-oriented principles. You have to know how to interact with Drupal correctly, right? There's just so many layers that you have to know. And should we remove this one? Like this little gateway to
Is the
entry,
intent to remove it though?
remove mod. Yeah,
The
I mean it
ability
was
to support
deprecated.
procedural hooks. The intent is to remove it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It was, but like I said, I'm
Yeah.
like that. It's one of those things where we put this in, and the assumption was, well, you put in the new system, let's get rid of the old system, right? And for most things, you want to do that, right? The question here, though, is, do we need to or do we want to? Like, should we
Right.
discuss whether or not we should keep it around?
Well,
You know,
in that episode, you guys discussed the absolute requirement that for backward compatibility.
yeah.
So, how far back is that backward compatibility as far as these hooks are concerned from your perspective?
Yeah. So that there's two different. Well, here's the thing: the backward compatibility layer for hooks is essentially, can we discover them?
Right.
Can we find them?
Right.
That's. I mean, there's some other stuff there, but and we can find them. I mean, we've proven that. Like
Yeah.
Drupal is doing that right now.
Yeah.
So we can maintain that layer, and as long as we have the ability to like start slowly marking things as they do get converted, like webform is converted. Well, webform doesn't have preprocessed hooks converted. We can move those over. Now there are some exceptions,
Yeah.
right? So this is something I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to document this and post some of this because a lot of this knowledge is internal, um, and I think this is knowledge that the community should have. But like for example, hook module implements alter.
Yeah.
That's a hugely problematic hook.
Hmm.
That's deprecated. That's going to be removed in 12 no matter
Yeah.
what. Even if we maintain the
Sure.
procedural fallback forever,
Yeah.
ordering of hooks, we are not keeping hook module implemented for that. It is I mean, that replacing that one single hook took me probably 80 hours of work and who knows how much time from Don and checks and all the other people that reviewed it. I mean, I would not be surprised if that hook alone took a took a collective 250, 300 hours of work from some of the best Drupal minds out there,
Wow.
right? And so we're not going to maintain a backwards
Yeah.
compatibility layer for that forever because
Right.
it's great. Same thing, hook info or
Yeah.
hook
Yeah.
requirements.
Yeah.
They're doing things that you they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing or in a way that's architecturally problematic.
Yeah.
And so having a new solution for that, you get rid of the old solution. Procedural hooks in general, though, or like even pre-process hooks, the backwards compatibility layer for that is a little painful, a little messy.
Yep.
But if you tell themers all of a sudden, hey, you need to learn object-oriented code, like this is something Check said on the call. The fact that
Yeah.
themers have to write PHP is an abomination in the first place.
Yeah.
If you tell them that they have to write object-oriented classes and stuff,
Right.
that's even worse. The fact that we can is a bonus.
Right.
It's better for a whole bunch of reasons. But if you tell them that they have to do it that way,
Would you say that the Drupal CMS push too is also maybe bringing that support for procedural hooks to make it more important? Because when you're now saying that product is targeted towards marketers, not even necessarily people in who are technically oriented, if they could follow a few steps to put in a few procedural hooks to modify a little thing, then that's
yeah,
reasonable.
I think so. I mean, I think, yeah, I'm trying to think through. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's really just about opening up the more novice end of the market again, both for
Yeah.
site builders and
Right.
for like the tinkerers, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that lends itself towards that.
Hey, so back to my we got a little diverted. Like one of the initial questions, and the things I was thinking about is how that transition for you was for this core work that you did. Like how difficult was it for you to like kind of get it, or had you
Yeah.
already done enough sort of customizations and custom code and maybe some core? I know you were already doing some core commits before this, right?
Yeah.
So how difficult was it when you really needed to understand all the details in order to do something?
I mean, I hadn't been doing a lot of core work
Okay.
before this. I think it was my third or fourth core issue that I had seen through, like seen through beginning to end.
Right.
Um, One of the things I realized is that there's a lot more process around core stuff. And I think that's lent itself to some of my success recently in getting some of these initiatives through is that I'm on some of the bigger ones, at least at some point I transitioned more to project manager mode, I would say, than developer or coder, right? In fact,
For
on
this
the
issue?
for the
Yeah.
hook, yeah. Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
checks wrote most of the um checks
Interesting.
wrote most of the um the object-oriented hook piece.
Okay.
And then, I contributed I contributed to tests. I contributed to
Implementation of it?
um no, well, some detail, like if somebody gave feedback and it was
Yep.
something that I could do, I made some of those changes.
Yep.
Some of them I just would send them a message on Slack and say, "Hey, so and so asked a question about this thing. I don't know what the answer is. Can you
Got
can
it.
you
Okay.
reply?"
Yep.
Same thing for the hook ordering. Like Chex wrote a lot of the hook ordering
Yep.
from scratch. I wrote a lot of the tests.
Yep.
Don rewrote almost the entire implementation, and then he wrote a bunch of his own tests, and then I kind
Yep.
of merged the two tests together. But very quickly, and because I reviewed it, was doing the test and that stuff, I understand the underlying pieces of the code fairly well. But my contribution there was more testing and confirming that when there was a change or request, and then
Uh-huh.
like finding people to review it and confirm that
Got
it
it.
works within
So there
those
were a
systems.
lot of
So,
hands in this.
oh, absolutely.
Interesting.
Uh,
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I
Well,
think that's both this.
your description of this project that I heard, maybe I didn't hear, like over because I've been aware of it for a year as you've been working on it. You've mentioned it a few times. when someone says they're like modifying 28,000, whatever the number
Oh,
was, right?
that's a different piece.
Okay.
Okay.
All
So
right.
that's a different piece.
All
Okay.
right. That gives me
So
that doesn't sound like PM work to me.
no. That's a different thing that I did. So that I worked on. And again, I worked with checks heavily on that. So
Right. Yeah.
we we landed the object-oriented hook issue, right?
Yeah.
It got into core. We converted, I think, 3 hooks in core to object-oriented as kind of like proof of concept.
Got it.
And then I was like, he had written a rector rule,
Yep.
and rector is a tool that you can use to like process code and rewrite it essentially. He
Yep.
had written a rector rule to start converting to start converting hooks from procedural to object-oriented, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I started tinkering with it and testing it, and I would run it on a module in core and be like, oh, these things didn't work. And then he would
Right.
rewrite, I mean, I collaborated a bit on that, but that again was mostly me just like running the code that he wrote, the rules
Yeah.
that he wrote, and giving him feedback. Now, what I did though is I made it repeatable and tested, like I literally spent 80 to 90 hours just on that issue alone.
Yeah.
But what it was I had a bash script and it's on GitLab, so I can share it with you. But it basically pulled down the composer dependencies, patched a couple of projects that we needed to patch because they didn't allow us to do something that we needed to do, and then it would run the rector rule on every single module in core, and then it would commit them separately,
Yep.
and then once that was done, there were a bunch of edge cases that didn't work or were broken or had a
Yep.
test needed to be changed. I would make those changes and create a patch for it,
Uh-huh.
and then have an automated way to apply that patch. And so I had it at the end and then run baseline, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So I was kind of doing the conversion project, but I was utilizing tooling from checks and from other places and Rector and Code Sniffer and all that kind of stuff. But I got it to the point where I could pull, because core is always changing and updating, and this is an automated change, so you can't resolve a conflict because you're copying something from one place to the other. If there's a conflict, you just have to recopy it, right?
Right.
So I operationalized it enough that once it was getting reviews, I could convert all of core in 10 minutes. So if they committed something upstream and there was a conflict, I would create a new branch from the new version, run it, push it up, and then be like, okay, it's ready for review again.
Sounds like a lot of data migration work I've done, right?
Yeah.
Same sort of process.
Same skill set.
Yeah.
Same exact skill set. And that was 28,000 lines. Now, again, I got lucky because it happened at the exact right time where a core committer was willing to look at it. It was within beta or alpha, I forget. So it was like a time frame where they're willing to make such a disruptive change. And I had talked through a lot of the issues and they understood it, and somebody approved it, RTBC'd it, and it got in. And the thing is, it's really good that I did that, because one of the other things that came out of that is when we converted stuff, we found all these edge cases that we hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
And we were able to resolve them before they came out into a version of Drupal that was actually released. Because that's one of the problems. Once something's released, now you're dealing with a whole can of worms. Like, for example, the original version of the object-oriented hook issue had a way to order hooks. And it was, let's just say, broken. And so we ripped it. Like, the issue to resolve that is the one that took 250 hours between the 3 or 4 or 5 of us.
Right.
And so that tells you how complex that issue was.
Yeah.
So we realized it was broken when we were doing the conversion. And so we ripped out the ordering piece of the object-oriented hook conversion piece.
Yeah.
And 11.1 shipped with, you just had to use hook module implements halter. And we found a few other edge cases like that if they had been released they might not have been discovered for years. If they had been released in 11.1, would have broken dozens of sites, hundreds of sites, and would have been a mess to clean up. So, yeah. So I did work on the 28,000 line of code. That was different than the actual work.
I'm not keeping score on writing up the numbers here, but I mean, previously you'd said in the episode you spent 80 to 100 hours, and you've already mentioned you spent 80 or more hours on like 4 different things here. and
Yeah.
and
So
you also mentioned in the episode that if this hadn't gotten into 11.1, you said something like it could have been 8 years till this thing got in, and it may have been the last core effort I ever did.
yeah. So
What did you mean
yeah.
by that?
So I was naive
Yeah.
and I poured all that time without really going through like Drupal is open source. Drupal's governance is great. I think it's better than almost every other project. But the truth is, when there's big sweeping changes like this, there's a fair amount of resistance, I
Sure.
would say, generally. And
Probably that's a good thing,
so
right?
in some respects, I
Yep.
mean, it means that thing like generally like let's take hooks for example. If I hadn't gotten that bulk conversion in, okay, let me put it this way. There's three steps to the conversion, right, of hooks to object oriented. Step one is the bulk conversion, which is like a programmatic. It moves it from
Yep.
procedural to object oriented.
Yep.
Step two is to organize those hooks because they all get dumped into one file essentially. Step two is to kind of organize those into separate files and set up dependency injection for each one,
Yep.
right? And then step three is to maybe do a final pass and look at them all and be like, okay, this one hook gets executed on every single page 400 times. Let's put it in its own file
Got it.
so that it's a little bit more efficient, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we did the bulk conversion last November, and somebody opened it. So I was working on some testing and stuff, and opened up an issue to do the second step for the taxonomy module, right? Literally just organize them into a set of files and do dependency injection. We are now July. That issue still isn't merged. Like there's still discussion about, oh, should this go in this file? Should it go in that file? Should like now let's scale that back to like, okay, converting core, like those discussions would have had to happen before because it kind of went in bulk. We were able to forestall a lot of the discussions about, okay, these types of hooks go in this file, these types of hooks go in that file. We should clean this up while we're working on this. Like all of that discussion is valid, but it's like, why don't we get the benefit of not having any procedural hooks in core first? And I think
So
core
where
is
in this
slowly starting
process
to warm.
are you naive? That's how you started that. Where are you
I
naive
spent
in this?
I didn't know that this had the potential to be like bike shedded. Like I didn't have
Got
like
it.
I didn't like I thought like, oh, if I do this work, they'll
Someone's
see
gonna
it, they'll
approve
be
it.
excited and they'll merge it.
Yeah.
And that happened,
Right.
but that's very much the exception. Now, I will say core I think is becoming more and more comfortable with some of these bulk vector updates
Yeah.
because they've seen the success of the procedural hook conversion. But in general, I would I would caution you to be more familiar with hook emitters. Make sure you're recognized, like make sure they know what you're working on. I would I would caution you not to spend 80 hours in 1 month working on an issue
Right.
without understanding if it's going to get committed or not, or just be aware that hey, it might not, and you just burn 80 hours of work for
And maybe not start with
nothing.
something that's so fundamental to Drupal.
Yeah,
Right.
that was ambitious too. And as far as like, I mean, this is something I'm still struggling with. Your second
Yeah.
question is like, would I have stopped working on core?
Yeah.
I mean, probably. I mean, I was so excited about it. I had poured so
Yeah.
much effort into it.
Right.
And to be honest, it is this is one of the problems. Like it's impacting my client, not my client work, but it's impact and
Sure.
I am donating a lot of time to the Drupal project that I could be working on client project. And finding that balance is something that I've been working on ever since. And I'm starting to move more towards dedicated times to core,
Yeah.
fewer issues that I'm kind of doing the PM role on because it just takes so much time and effort. It's important, but I have a business to maintain and client projects that I
Yeah.
have to work on. So
I'm curious as this rolled out and kind of as it's rolling out now still, do you feel like it's been followed through in terms of people being aware of this and knowing how to deal with it in terms of documentation and, just like, hey, this is different now. Um,
Yeah.
you know what
So I
what
think
I'm
it,
saying?
yeah, I think I do. So I think it's made a splash. I think people are generally aware that it's a thing. Their documentation is lacking, that's for sure. I'm working on so I've been working on a blog post I told you a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago on hook stuff. I've realized that I think I need to just break it out into smaller posts because I will never finish the
Do you
opus.
think that could turn into also be repurposed for maybe some documentation on
Yeah.
Drupal.org?
Yeah, maybe Drupal.org, probably Selwyn Pollitt's book.
Yeah.
What is it? Drupal at your fingertips or something.
Uh huh.
I think that'd be a good thing. Really, I'm seeing people convert, and one of the ways that I know that's happening is people, I think, now know me as the hook guy, and I get pinged for questions
Right.
on edge cases. I do see, probably because there's not a whole lot of documentation, I see people doing things that are unnecessary, or like, for example, there's a reorder attribute to help you order things, and I've seen a couple contrib modules using it that there's no reason for them to use the reorder attribute. They could just use it directly on the hook. So they're using
Right.
like a subsystem made for like one very specific use case that you almost never need. And because people see that it's called order, they think that they should use that to
Right.
order,
Sure.
which isn't hugely problematic, but it means
Right.
like, well, you're doing stuff that really there's a better way to do it, a more
Yeah.
efficient way to do it.
Do you think working in core has helped the work that you do on the client side? Or is it really so far apart they're unrelated to each other in any way?
It, it's helped in some ways, and it's actually hurt in a couple.
Yeah.
It's helped because I've never understood Drupal better than I do now.
Yeah.
I'm also not afraid to dive into like a lot of debugging previously was like try to find an issue where somebody mentioned it, see where they're working and look through there or step through
Yeah.
the code, right? But now I understand the subsystems better, so I can sometimes I can just find what's going on without even going to the issue queue first, and
Okay.
I always try to put this stuff back there.
Right.
Second, it's honestly helped, I think, because I've been working in core and I help other people out with other things. So if I have an issue with contrib or even core, people are, I think, more willing to like. That's one of the great things about open source. You help somebody out,
Yeah.
they'll help you out next time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, for example, custom fields, Andy, I mean, that's partly the show too, but Andy jumped on a call with me, was it last week, to debug. I uncovered a data loss bug in custom field kind of accidentally. And I don't know how much time he spent on that, but he literally jumped on a call so I could show him how to reproduce it. And obviously, I'm helping everybody else out that's using custom field and helping
Yeah.
him because he doesn't want a data loss bug in his code. But I imagine he spent 10 hours working on that bug. It was pretty nasty. Um, it's hurt because I wouldn't even say hurt, but it's impacted it negatively. And I've corrected for this, but it was funny because I've been working. One thing about working on core is you're working on 11.x.
Yeah.
And so I had an issue with something, and I was like, it doesn't work like that. We removed that. And it's like, but that was 11x. It's coming out at
Right.
11.2, and this site was on
Right.
10.5 or 10.4 or
Right.
something, right? So the net is definitely way, way positive.
Right.
The other thing that I've noticed is because I'm in the queue so much, I'm aware of other issues.
That's true.
Like, for
Right.
example,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's been a major issue with CK editor because CK editor doesn't follow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, CK editor doesn't follow semantic versioning properly,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and so
Oh, okay.
core updated CK editor for 10.5 and 11.2, and there was a breaking change,
Yeah.
and so
And
a
it
bunch of
wasn't,
contrib modules broke
did they just increment the
because
patch number or something?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they do breaking changes between like they're on like 45.3, they'll do a breaking change between 45.3 and 45.4. But we have to update that because
Yeah.
it's like security stuff. So 11.1 to 11.2 now has breaking changes
Yeah.
from a dependency. And so I was aware that, okay, I'm just not going to update to 10.5 and I'm not going to update to 11.2 until those contrib modules catch up. And I knew that. because I saw that like issues like that keep popping up to the top of the page. So you see those issues, you become aware of them. And so
Yeah.
when I had a client that updated by themselves to 10.5 and CK Editor wasn't working, and I was like, well, this is why, and pointed them to the issue and show them how to fix it and debug it. And I knew like, could I have found that before? Yeah,
Right.
probably in 10 minutes. But then it was at that point it was a 120 line comment thread and whatever I just knew off the top of my head exactly what the issue was because I had seen it pop up so many times.
It,
So definitely net positive for my clients.
if you
Um,
had a choice now, after spending a year in this, of spending more time doing core stuff, which is kind of like building a framework for other developers to build things, would you
yeah,
rather spend your time doing that? Or do you like dealing with an end customer to use Drupal to deliver a solution? Those are two different
I think it's
worlds, right?
I think it's both. I definitely see like I think building the site is what keeps you grounded in what
Yep.
people need and what people are doing every day. Like if I
Yep.
was only on core,
Yep.
then I would be like, yeah, get rid of module files. Like I don't want to deal with the extra code to handle. Like let's
Ah,
modernize this and
got
get
you.
rid of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But keeping in mind the people using the product is always important. I would love to be sponsored to work on core.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's one of the biggest gaps, right? Like we need more core committers
Yeah.
now. So I'm technically a maintainer of the extension API, but I can't commit to core. I don't have permission. There's
Right.
only 5 or 6 people that have that permission.
Mhm.
We need more of them.
Yeah.
We also need more. We need project managers on the queue that can help. I mean, what do project managers do? They're invaluable, and
Right. Yeah.
we don't
Sure.
really have we definitely have people that work on certain projects. Like there's definitely one for like experience builder and that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
like we need just like general Drupal project managers that can help with prioritizing and planning and that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I think that's the biggest gap of the community is funding for this kind of thing. Because yeah, I would love to continue spending the kind of time I spend on it. I mean, I've already started scaling back because it's not
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah.
sustainable.
And you hear, I mean, this is just an ongoing topic, right? We've had shows on it, on how to
Yeah,
get people to be funded for core development and stuff, and contrib modules and everything else. So very interesting.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's one of the there's some grumblings in the community about the AI initiative, right? And I understand it. AI,
Yeah.
you can't get away from AI right now.
No.
I I think it makes sense as a product for Drupal to have an offering there,
Yep.
right? Because it's one of those things that people check the box. If you don't have AI, they're not going to look at your service. Now, I will strongly contend with what value that AI generally provides. Like there are certain circumstances where it provides value. Most Drupal sites aren't going to need that, right?
Right.
Um, so, but there's a case to be said, like what drives Drupal forward more, having an AI initiative or funding 2 more core committers that know what they're doing,
Mm.
right? Um, because one of the things that happens is like right around when 11.2 was coming out, they stopped committing new changes, right?
Hmm.
It's like any product. You don't
Right.
want to commit new stuff right before,
Yeah.
like when you're in beta.
Sure.
And so the RTBC queue fills up.
Yeah.
And so right when 11.2 dropped, I think the RTBC queue, which is like things that people think are ready to be committed, a committer still has to look at it. It got to 150 or 160 issues. And so I personally stopped
Is
RTBCing
that
things.
like, is that a big number? I'm not in those queues. I
Yeah.
mean, is that a big
Yeah.
number?
I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. Think about if you were on a project. I mean, the project you work on normally, there's what, 4 developers?
Yeah.
Let's imagine
Let's say it's four.
let's
Yeah.
say let's say okay, let's imagine you had another team working on stuff that gave you a list of 200
Yep.
things that were like, these are all ready to be put in the project, release
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Like it's a very large number.
Okay.
And so I stopped RTB seeing stuff, and then they released it and got through the smoke out period and started committing stuff again. Well, so much stuff was pent up, like they would commit 10 things in one day, and people were like, oh, there's movement again. and it would be right back up to 150 for
Right.
like, I mean, the team, they spent, I think, 3 weeks like turning, they were committed. There were some days they committed 30 issues,
Right.
which is an extremely high number. And they got down to, I think they're down to like 60 or 70 now, maybe 80. But it took them almost a month of like a concerted effort to like churn through that. And the truth is, when it's busy like that, it's like, oh, things are moving. People are more motivated. They're putting more stuff in. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
But what would drive Drupal forward more? Having an AI initiative or having two people more working on these complex issues that not a lot of people really like until
Yeah,
I
it's
got
an
hooked on
age-old
this.
question though, right?
Yeah,
That kind of question,
exactly.
age-old.
Or a project manager, like having a dedicated project manager that literally just grooms the 16,000 issues that are in Drupal core right now. I mean, Steve Musgrave does a lot of this with some
Yep.
of his initiatives, but
Uh-huh.
having like a dedicated person for it that would move.
Team. Sounds like it's a team. Sounds like it
Yeah,
needs a team.
yeah. It's one of the things that we have to start convincing. Like, there's tons of project managers with Drupal experience, but and we say that you don't have to know code to contribute, which is true, but I don't think we've done a good job of convincing people with that skill set that it's something that they want to contribute to. Same thing with design. There's some designers that contribute
Yep.
here, like things, but like, how do we get people? How do we get a project manager to be like, you know what? I want to clean this up. I
Yeah,
want to
right, right,
organize
right.
this. I want to, because like for me, like as a developer, it's like you write something, it gets out there, your name is on there. That's cool. Like, how do you get that same thing from a project manager? Because that's something that the core community desperately needs.
Well, as we wrap up here, I have to ask you a coffee question since we're sitting in a
Sure.
cafe. Curious. What is your go-to coffee?
Um,
Style and maybe a brand or a bean that you like.
yeah. So believe it or not, I'm not much of a coffee drinker, but I
Okay.
am I am married to a Colombian.
Yeah, I've been I've
So
I've had coffee at your house.
yes.
You
So I
guys are
have coffee every day.
yeah, okay. I was just gonna say.
But it's more, and I like it. I do like coffee, but
I get it. You're not a continuous coffee drinker. You're not the guy that with a
yeah,
cup of
I
coffee
am
all day.
now. I
Okay,
have been for
right.
the last 12 years.
Okay, all
It's
right.
just not because it's just like like when I was single, I would drink coffee maybe once a week or every
Got
couple of
it. No,
weeks. Like
right.
I would go to Dunkin'
Yeah.
Donuts or something. But yeah, we actually, one of my clients gave my wife a gift of a really fancy espresso machine.
Uh-huh.
It's a Breville.
Yeah.
And so we usually have cappuccinos or lattes in the morning. It's usually
Mhm.
cappuccino. And she uses a special oat milk that you can
Uh-huh.
froth.
Yeah, barista.
And
Like a
the
barista oat
bean,
milk.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's very talented.
Yeah.
And then the beans are usually Juan Valdez. Um, Sometimes we'll
Okay.
have something else, but Juan Valdez is a Colombian um, coffee company, and they ship here. So every Black Friday, they usually have a sale, and so we get like 10 pounds of coffee or something that usually lasts a year, which is about the limit of what, like, you don't want your beans to be really older than 8 months to a year,
Oh, I thought it
or
would
they
be a
won't make
lot
good
less than that.
espresso. No, well, it's less than that. If you buy them from a store, they're usually been on the shelves for 2 years.
Okay. Like when I get the beans, because I mean, I got an espresso maker, not like the one you have, but I got one probably 2 years ago. My wife wanted one. Finally, we got one. And I was like, it's going to be one of those appliances we're not going to use. Now it's the most used appliance in the house.
Yeah,
Use it every
she uses
single
it
day.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, but I am a coffee drinker, but I'm not, I wouldn't be like, consider myself a coffee snob. I kind of drink anything. Although I'm a
Yeah.
little bit more particular now. But I always thought that when the bean had a shine to it, it was the freshest, and when the shine
Yeah.
goes
It's the
away,
oil.
it's probably not as the oil, when the oil's gone, it's not as
Yeah.
good, and it feels like it gets bitter to me if the shine is
Yes.
gone.
So the thing that we learned after we get the
Okay.
machine, so you get this fancy machine and you
Yep.
think like, oh, it's like anything. Like you get it because it's going to make the coffee better. And what you learn is it extends the range on both ends of the spectrum.
Okay.
You can make better coffee,
Yeah.
and you can also make
Worse
far, far, far worse coffee.
Yeah.
And so for the first 2 weeks, it took her probably 2 weeks to learn how to use the machine well. And one of the biggest things was we were using old beans.
Yeah.
They were new to us. We just bought them, but we were using old beans. And that coffee, I still remember that coffee. It is the worst thing I've ever drank in my life. Like you take a sip and it sticks in your mouth for 4 hours. But it makes better coffee than you can get anywhere. But if you don't know what you're doing,
Did they have you recently went to a conference in Boston? You don't usually go to conferences, right? You went to did they have a coffee exchange there?
I don't think they did.
Oh, they didn't. Okay.
I got my wife banned me from going to the coffee exchange because I took one of the Juan Valdez coffees and I got a ground coffee back.
What, from Ned Camp?
Pre-ground. Yeah. I got pre-ground. She's like, you took, and the coffee
Pre-ground?
the coffee was fine, but and it was from a cool company, but it was pre-ground. And pre-ground is not good for an espresso machine.
Yeah.
And she's like, you took our limited supply of good quality Colombian Juan Valdez coffee and exchanged it for pre-ground. And we did use it, by the way. And what we used it for, so the other thing we do is we have affogatos most days.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know, if our listeners don't know, is coffee with ice cream.
Yep.
And so she uses pre-ground for that usually.
Okay.
So it's a different pressure profile and all that kind of stuff. But she just makes some coffee and we pour it over ice cream and have an affogato.
So I was thinking of this Talking Drupal Cafe. This is episode 7, and like any like new show, you just hope to get to 10 and see what happens if you're going to continue. I was thinking of calling this one. I've been calling them like the name of the people. This case would be Stephen and Nick, but I think I'm going to change the title slightly to be maybe Drupal Hooks Continued.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I feel like I dominated this conversation.
No,
that
actually was the purpose of this phone. That was the purpose of this phone call, and I told you that.
Yeah, you told me that. But I do want to ask about watches because this is the second time I've seen that you like watches today, and I had no idea that you liked watches.
It's only a couple of years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not a lifetime thing, so it's only a couple of years old. Probably 2 years ago that I just started to get. I got rid of my Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to simplify the noise in my life, right? Because it was constantly bothering me. So I got rid of my Apple Watch, and then within 3 or 4 days, I realized that I actually used my Apple Watch 2 to see what the time was, right?
Yeah.
So I picked up like a Casio F91, like a $16, watch, and I wore it and I absolutely adored it. Then I started to say, and then you start looking around and looking around and looking around. And now I've got a little collection of not expensive watches, but I have a few automatics, a number of G-Shocks, and just I have.
Do you have a calculator watch?
Absolutely.
Okay,
of course I do.
Say.
I got that for my birthday from my wife, I think last summer.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a calculator watch. I do. I would say that it's probably low in the rotation, but I do wear it. I actually got a new one yesterday. So this is a Casio. This is a famous model. This is a 6900. Watch it. I don't know if you know G-Shocks, but I got this yesterday from eBay, and it's I always like the ones that are solar and that they connect to the radio waves to get the time updated. So it's multi-band. Casio calls it multi-band, or what's the other word? They use another word for it in the older watches. So it syncs with the time every night, so it's always accurate.
Really? So you must be following Jeff Geerling's time series.
Oh, that was great.
I saw him installing the GPS antenna. And I'm like, maybe that's a hobby I could get into.
Yeah,
and I was
that's
no, I
fascinating,
have too many hobbies right now. Let me stick with synthesizers for now.
All right. So that's the story on the watches. Nick, great to chat with you again. We'll have to do this more often, even with the cameras off.
Yeah, it's always good to chat.
All right. I'll talk to you probably tomorrow.
Yep. Bye tomorrow.